Welcome to the b.reathe Conversations. This series explores how people operate as responsibility, ambition, and pressure grow over time. These are not burnout stories, and they're not about fixing anything. They're calm, honest conversations about awareness, capacity, and what helps performance last. Today, I'm joined by Neil. Thanks you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you, Katie. I'm great, thank you.
Good. Why don't we start with you telling me a little bit about you and your background and what you're up to now?
Okay, so I was originally a scientist and had almost 20 years corporate experience in the pharmaceutical industry. I had different roles across different companies with increasing levels of responsibility. And after being laid off many years ago, I got into property and I wanted to have a bit more control, but it's a very cash hungry business, I found. And that's how I set up my property business, slowly and gradually building it up. And then I managed to, the goal was to quit my corporate job and to go full time in the property industry, running my own business. And I achieved that almost 2 years ago. So 2 years in April, I'll have had be my second anniversary of leaving the corporate world.
Amazing. Congratulations on that. Yeah, I know
Thank
it's
you.
always a nice feeling when you sort of leave the sack the boss, as they say.
The funny thing is, I didn't have a bad boss, whereas
Yeah.
most people I speak to, they can't wait to get out.
Yeah, it sounded like you just wanted a bit more freedom. I know you
That's right.
obviously a little bit more personally and your freedom is traveling. What's your goal for traveling?
Well, it's interesting you say that because this year, one of my personal goals is to have one holiday per quarter.
Wow.
And that's something that would have been difficult if I was still working in the corporate world.
Yeah, of course you're restricted by holiday leave, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. 25 days just isn't enough.
No, it's not. Definitely not.
I can hear your American listeners thinking some of them only get 10 days.
And how does it feel working for yourself in property compared to your corporate role? Is there a difference in stress level? Is it similar stress but different types of stress?
The first and the main thing I'd notice, it's all about control. For those that know me, I'm a little bit of a control freak, and being MD means that I have the full control of the business, control of what I do, when I work, where I work from, and that's probably the biggest game changer I've had from, moving over from corporate to self-employed. Now, it's not to say in the corporate world, particularly in my latter years, in the higher roles, I did have a significant amount of autonomy and control, but not the level of control to work from anywhere in the world or to choose to work 2 days or 3 days a week or to work a Saturday morning so I could have Friday off. So really, it's the complete autonomy of what I do, when I do it, and who I work with. I'd say definitely the biggest thing for me from a stress perspective. I'd say I feel a lot less stressed now compared to my corporate days. Now, there could be a few reasons for that. One, firstly, when you're working a corporate job and running a business, the running the business is in the spare time, which means there's a lack of leisure time, recreational time, decompression time. It can be long days, it's weekends. So that could be, well, I'd say it's definitely one of the key reasons for less stress. But I think also because I'm much more in a position where I choose what I do, I try to work in flow. Now that doesn't always work. There's time. I haven't quite got to the level where I can delegate everything I don't like doing or all the items that take me out of flow to other people. I haven't quite got there yet. That's something that I'll be working on this year. But overall, the stress level is a lot lower. And I think a lot of that is because sometimes in the corporate world, things happen to you. There's certain decisions at my level, there's decisions in the business that I don't have any say in. I'm informed of them rather than consulted. And that's part of corporates, working in the corporation. Whereas as the business owner, I make all the decisions.
Yeah, of course. And obviously that's where burnout can sort of slowly creep in corporate. And a lot of people don't recognize it and they don't necessarily take notice of it because you're working for someone else. You're kind of just on the treadmill, just continuing. How did it show up for you in corporate compared to now?
Well, I think the biggest example of it, going back several years, I'd received a significant promotion. So I'd previously been very time served and I could take on lots of work, and it not because I was very competent through experience and learning. I then moved to quite a different role. So I was very developmental in role. However, it was a role which involved a team that was significantly underperforming. It was a suddenly responsible for a significant team, and I was the number one. I was in charge on site. So it was a lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability. And I came in at a time, I say, where KPIs were very poor, to say the least. And there was some significant risk of loss of contracts. So I think my immediate response was to do what I knew best, and it's to work your way out of a hole. I thought I could do it all on my own. How wrong I was. I think the problem I had was I didn't really see the signs early enough, and by the time I realised where I was, I was already burnt out. I was burnt out easily within 6 months, and that 6 to 9 month period was particularly difficult. And I think it was a case of not knowing, not seeing the signs. It was the first real time that I'd found myself in that position, because I'm not only accountable for my own work, I'm accountable for everybody else's work on site.
Yeah, it sounds very stressful.
Yeah, it actually resulted in me leaving the company. I looked for I think by the time I realised it was too late, and I started looking for other jobs. When I lost the belief that I could solve it all, that's when I started to look for something. I just thought I can do better than this, and I decided to move on.
Yeah, amazing. I'm glad that you took that step because a lot of people don't do that for themselves, but you did. You recognized it and you tried to move on from it. How did it actually show up for you? Like, what sort of symptoms did you have for the burnout? Was it normal, general things that you just didn't recognize because you didn't know it, or were there some more unique ones?
I think it was because it was long out. I was probably leaving the house at 8 and getting home at 8, and then I was even on Sunday evening. I was trying to get ahead of myself before Monday, and I think that some of the times when I really noticed was, that Sunday evening feeling when you think, oh no, yeah, you've enjoyed having Saturday off,
Yeah,
and it's this Sunday evening. Oh, I've got to go to work tomorrow. And where it probably felt it most was if I was away, say visiting family, living the other side of the country. It was that Sunday afternoon. It's time to get in the car and drive home. And when you realise you don't want to drive home,
yeah,
that I think that was the thing that when I really started to notice it, something's not right here.
yeah. That sounds tough as well. Having that feeling of sort of dread going to work, but also
Yeah,
not wanting to go home because you know what's coming. That
because I
must have
know
been
what's
really
coming on
stressful.
Monday. The
Yeah.
chaos is going to start all over again.
Yeah, but obviously some positives would have come out of this, and the first one would have been that now you maybe recognise when things are getting a bit more tough, and when you do need to take a break, and you have more control over that now, which is a
Oh,
massive benefit
yes,
of running your own business.
that's
N-
right.
Now that you're running your own business and you do have more of the control, what do you now understand about your performance, or what have you become more intentional about protecting?
Well, it's taking the time, taking the time out is the key. I sort of relate it. I'm so grateful for the experience because it almost repeated in the following corporate role, another role where I had okay. not the same situation, but high pressure at a certain time, results being demanded. But what I noticed that on that occasion, I was also doing some work for an adventure tour company, which involved going off to various places around the world and walking in the mountains, taking lots of photos for Instagram and social media, doing videos and all that. And part of that contract was I had to stay fit. If I reported to any of these trips where I'm going to be expected to be climbing mountains, doing physically enduring activities, there was significant penalties. So I had a training plan, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I had a gym routine, cardio, recovery. And what I noticed when I contrast how I felt in that circumstance compared to how I felt in the previous one, it was a massive difference because after a weight training session, a cardio session, um, I'm not thinking about all the trouble at work, and then a recovery session, and then I sleep really well,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then I'm ready for the wake up the next morning and go to work. And I don't know that it was so different the second time round.
Do you think part of it was obviously the exercise was a big impact, and we'll come back to that. Do you think part of it was as well because you're a lot more conscious of it? You'd been through it before, you knew you didn't want to go back there. Do you think
Yeah.
subconsciously you were doing things to protect yourself as well? Like setting
Yes.
boundaries, saying no to things?
I think setting the boundaries, as in, the cutoff time. I wasn't staying at work till 8 o'clock, for example. I was trying to work my hours. Now that can be very difficult, but I was being a lot more pragmatic. Whereas I'll stay till 6, but I won't stay till 8 unless it's an absolute emergency. There's a particular important. There's an audit coming up, but by setting that boundary, that then allowed me to go home, have dinner, go to the gym, and have some downtime in the evening, which I wasn't allowing myself first time round.
Yeah, and obviously having the training plan and having that in your contract meant that you had to protect that time because
That's
you had
right.
to go to the gym.
It was time blocked.
Yeah, definitely. So with the exercise as well, obviously there's a few different things that exercise helps with. It is a massive stress reliever, but it also builds up your endorphins, it builds up your resilience, you get the dopamine from looking forward to it. So how would you
Looking
say
forward to some of that training. It wasn't looking forward to it. I think the endorphins came afterwards.
I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I find with the gym, the first sort of couple of weeks of a plan, you don't really look forward to it. It's not that fun. You have the DOMs, you're aching,
Yeah,
and but after that first couple of weeks, you start seeing the progress, you start maybe
that's
lifting
right.
a bit more, and you actually start looking forward to going to the gym. I've always been a loner going to the gym as well. Like I've never really liked working out with other people. I like to be in and out, and I've recently started going with my boyfriend because he's wanted to get into the gym. And I've actually found myself it's a lot easier to go when you've got someone else going as
That's
well.
right.
And I think it's come from partly because if I don't want to go, I have to anyway, because otherwise he's going to bully me for the next 2 weeks about not going to the gym.
It's
So
your
it's
accountability
part of
buddy.
the accountability, yeah. And it just makes it a bit more enjoyable having someone there pushing you. You can generally lift a bit more if you've got someone else there as well,
That's
because you
right.
don't feel
Having a
worried about,
spotter really helps, and it's something that I need. Is I don't have a spotter, so it
yeah,
can really.
definitely. And I yeah, same as you. I never had a spotter before, and especially for upper body workouts for me,
That's
I'm not
right.
the strongest, and I wouldn't lift heavy because I was too scared of potentially dropping the weight on myself, which I don't want to do. Um, but yeah, it sounds like exercise had quite a big impact. Do you still exercise now?
Yes, I've sort of put it into a routine. I've now got a fixed routine. Well, it was fixed in whilst I was in the corporate role. That's now all changed now that I've given up work. So it's a lot more flexible. Whereas before it was always straight after work. It become a ritual. Finish work, drive to the gym, and I had snacks in the car waiting for me because it's a long time to go from lunchtime to after after training. So it was very much a ritual. Now it does change. My work now is so flexible, but I say it's flexible. One of the learnings of being self-employed is there was me thinking, oh, I could do all these things during the day, but the reality is I'm restrained by what hours other people work. So my solicitor certainly won't pick the phone up in the evening. Um,
Okay.
so it still generally is in the evening, but sometimes, particularly in January, I try to bring it forward to get away from the rush, the mad, all the New Year resolution people in the gym, and you can't get on any kit. But
Yeah.
it's not quite as much as a ritual, but it's planned in, but it does vary when I do it now.
Yeah, nice. Before I started going with Jono, I quite like going to the gym like in the middle of the day. I find it gives me a bit of a boost of energy, and also it's a lot quieter in the gym, so you can generally
Yes.
get on more equipment. But now that I'm going with him, because he works full time, I'm either going at 6 in the morning or in the evening after work. Struggling with the morning gym, though, I find it ruins my sleep routine because I usually get up around 7. So if I go to the gym, I'm up a lot earlier and it's affecting my sleep routine. So we've been doing it after work, but of course, January rush, it's very busy after work at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
So what else do you do? Obviously, going from corporate to self-employed to working for yourself. One of the things I noticed when I did that was I completely lost structure to my day, which I thought I would like, but actually very quickly I realized I needed some structure and I had to put that in myself. What do you do to make sure that you are getting stuff done and that you're keeping up motivation, and that you're actually sort of sticking to some sort of routine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at first, I had no structure whatsoever. The deals I had going on were very much they didn't need that much work from me because whilst I was in the corporate world, I was outsourcing as much as I could because I physically couldn't do it. And when I came into full time self employment, that structure that was still in place. So there wasn't a lot for me to do.
Yeah.
Um, but with time, um, I've gone into for those people in property, it's a great time to buy at the moment. So I've been inundated. I've been very busy with projects. Um, from a structural perspective, I still haven't cracked the default diary. That was one of the things that I was looking to implement because I'd heard stories from other people who had done the same, and they end up losing lots of time doing, watching daytime TV. It's not something I've ever really got into. Scrolling on social media, but things like the default diary is something that I want to implement more and using it to. I thought that I would work from, say, David Lloyd's for a couple of days, and that way I could do a session in the morning, do some work and play tennis in the afternoon before the rush comes. But I've never quite cracked that. I think that's partly because I went from one extreme at first, not having a lot to do, to go suddenly buying a load of property and having lots to do. So I created a load of chaos. I started getting involved with some of the site elements of projects, which then started to take significant amounts of time. And then I never got quite to the where I wanted to be with the work life blend. So that's something that I'm working on this year, to see how I can get myself out of some of the roles that I've suddenly taken on, and going back to how I envisaged it being.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? That we think that this is great because I'm self-employed, I can do more work, but all of a sudden you have all of this free time and then you very, very quickly fill it up with
That's
stuff that
right.
you shouldn't necessarily be doing. And I found that is every time I have a quiet spell, I very quickly find stuff to fill it up with. I'm not very good at quiet spells, and it's something that I'm learning to embrace a little bit more this year, which sounds like you're going to be working towards as well.
That's right.
One of the things as well with working, obviously doing stuff on site, is a little tip. is just have one day a week where you say, I don't work on site that day. If it's a Monday or a Tuesday, or maybe towards the end of the week. And maybe that could be your David Lloyd day, just one day a week, every week. But you also set that boundary with your contractors and the people that you're working with, and you let them know this is the day that I can't be on site. So if you have anything go wrong, just know I'll be there the next day, but I can't be there that day. And setting those boundaries and communicating them will make a massive difference to being able to
Yes, that's
work
right.
to your default diary. So hopefully I'll hear from you in a month and you'll be at David Lloyd playing tennis.
I should be playing more.
Yeah, definitely. I've never really got into tennis, but I know a lot of people are playing paddle at the moment.
Yes, it's the latest craze. I've given it a go. It's great.
Is it? Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I feel like I should.
Yeah, we'll do it. Birmingham.
Yeah. So obviously you've had quite a lot of experience in corporate. You've now had experience working for yourself. What would you say to someone who is still in like a high stress environment to make things more sustainable, in terms of like maybe they're an entrepreneur, but they're still working full time, they're still in corporate, or they're still doing something else? What advice would you give them to keep things more sustainable for themselves?
I think it's a case of time blocking, time out the diary to do completely non-work activities that you enjoy. So for me, I like going out into the countryside. I go climbing Munro bagging in Scotland. There's places here in Yorkshire. There's some really nice place on a nice summer's day where you can just walk along, cliff top walks with the North Sea crashing against the cliffs, out miles away from any roads, nice views, out in nature, especially and you can't beat it when the sun's shining, um, and you know blocking out you know small amounts of time each day, and then a larger amount of time, maybe at a weekend, maybe Saturdays, no work, no business, or Sundays, whatever fits best. So one full day, and then small chunks throughout the week.
Yeah, nice. I like to call those small chunks in the week little micro moments. And
Yeah,
it's sort of like 15 to 30 minutes where you do some meditation or have a bath or go for a walk. Something I find cooking homemade meals quite relaxing if I've got the time to do it. It's quite stressful if you're quite tight on time, actually.
yeah,
But if you have time in the evening to cook meals, I know a lot of people meal prep or they order from meal prep services, which is great. And if that works for them, amazing. But I really do enjoy cooking fresh when I have the time, and I find it quite therapeutic. So that can work for a little micro moment as well. Or even I know that it's not amazing for doing it during the day or having it like as a constant thing, but things like watching a TV show or playing on your Xbox, if that's something you enjoy, then I definitely recommend doing it for 15 to 30 minutes a day, just so that you have some downtime to relax.
that's
I know
right.
everyone's downtime is different, isn't it? And the Xbox is never something I quite got into. I can't work out. But I know that for my brother, for example, that's something that he does to relax and he really enjoys it. And he also connects with his friends doing that.
Yes,
So everyone has different things, but just like you said, small chunks daily make a massive difference.
that's right. I like to also think about micro holidays. And so one thing I'm going to be testing out I started it last year. I call a micro holiday when it's anything from a weekend to less than a week, just to get away from it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I need to do a few more of those, even if it's just to another city. I really enjoy going to different cafes and trying to
Okay.
like maybe I could do like a little cafe tour, try and
So
find
that's
some new
great
places.
when if you're walking out in the countryside, and you find one of something like that at the halfway mark, it's great.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine
And there's
that's
no
like
guilt as well because you've been
yeah.
walking for the last several hours.
Yeah, a lot of people. So I go to the one of my goals this year is to be going to the gym and training in Muay Thai and stuff consistently, but not to an extreme. So just doing it to maintain, to be healthy, to keep moving and be mobile. A lot of people ask me like, why do you, I don't follow like a strict diet. I eat well, but I don't follow anything strict. I'll have a treat if I want one. And a lot of people say like that you're body is built in the kitchen, not in the gym. But my rule of thumb this year is that I go to the gym so that I can eat what I want. So the cakes at the cafe, and it's not like I go to a cafe every day. I only go every couple of weeks. So I get to have a little treat. But yeah, it was really, really good speaking with you. Have you got any final top tips that you would like to share to anyone that's maybe transitioning from corporate to full-time business?
Well, for me, I transitioned slowly, and that will be based on my values and what I wanted. So I know in particularly in property, and I'm sure in any other form of self-employment, I know you see a lot of noise on the internet about quit your job, quit your job in 6 months, or quit your job in a year, and to go from zero knowledge and experience to leaving a corporate job where you're probably earning a good salary. That's quite a curve to go on. Now, I think it's a case of understanding what your values are. So I value things like freedom, but also security. And those two values can work against each other, and particularly when you're in a corporate job. And the reason I didn't leave earlier was because they were working against each other. I didn't understand that. So the security side of things meant that I had to make sure that business was well developed and safe. You'll often hear that a large percentage, I can't remember the number, but a large percentage of businesses fail in the first year. And of those that last, another large percentage are no longer here in 3 or 5 years' time. So to give myself the best chance of succeeding at this, I took a much slower journey and built solid foundations to the business rather than just going, super fast, which can often be higher risk. So by doing that, it meant that I was able to satisfy the security value that I have and allow me to leave my job without all the stress. And so I know people who have quit their job, or sometimes they haven't had the choice, it's redundancy, and they are highly stressed because meeting their bills for next month is dependent on doing a deal. And that's not a good position to be in.
No, and it's quite stressful.
So it's a case of building the profits, the cash flow, and the profits up in the business over time, so that you've got enough to replace your income at the time. If you have the ability to choose your leaving date, and I understand not everybody does, but being able to choose your leaving date and not put yourself under the financial pressure would be a massive, it was a massive thing for me. And if I hadn't done it, I'd probably still be working in the corporate world now.
Yeah, and you also touched on a really important point there as well, is that you've taken time with it. You haven't put the pressure on yourself, and you've probably enjoyed the journey a hell of a lot more than a lot of people would have. Because if you put so much pressure on yourself to do well, and you're constantly having to fight fires, you're going to feel very stressed. You're not going to remember
That's
the
right.
journey. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to celebrate the wins. Whereas because you've slowed down and built those foundations, you've probably enjoyed it quite a lot more.
Yes, and also for those that are in a job that they don't particularly like, whilst you're building up, and particularly when you're to close to achieving your number, um, the problems at work don't feel so bad because you know that there's a plan B. Most people don't have a plan B, or the plan B is to get another job, but that relies on there being jobs available and performance at interview, and just sometimes there's a bit of luck involved in that, being in the right place at the right time. But knowing that the plan B is there, and that in 6 months or 12 months, you're not going to have to deal with it, it was very empowering when I was going to work, when I was choosing to go to work rather than needing to go to work. Some of my colleagues said, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
Because they knew what I was doing. I'd love to know how much the bosses knew, but there
Yeah.
were There were colleagues that knew exactly what I was doing. They'd seen various posts on Facebook of houses in various states of disrepair, followed by pictures of houses looking like show homes. And some of the posts had breakdowns of the numbers. So it was, I'd say, when you go to work because you want to go to work rather than because you have to go to work, or you choose to go to work rather than having to go to work, it's a very empowering place to be.
It is definitely, and it does make the challenges or problems at your job seem that little bit easier to cope with
Yes.
because you know that you're choosing to be there rather than being forced to be in that position.
Yes, that's right, and you don't mind saying no even, so a lot of people don't say no because they're worried it's gonna affect them later down the line and, impact their career progression.
Yeah.
However, I got to that stage where I could say no without worrying about the future because my future wasn't in the corporate, world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you've just shared that. I think it opens a lot of conversation about actually enjoying the journey, not putting loads of pressure on yourself, making sure that you're in a comfortable position. And also some people do enjoy their jobs. Like you don't have to give up your job if you enjoy it. You can still have something on the side. And another thing, like you said, is sometimes business doesn't go to plan.
That's
And
right.
sometimes things take longer than we expect. But our worst case scenario as business owners who have come from work is that we have to go and get a job. And that's a
That's
lot
right.
of people's best case scenario. So I think
Yeah,
actually we're doing pretty well because we're
that's
giving it a
right.
go. And even though it does get tough, we're choosing to be there and it's something that we're passionate about.
That's right.
But yeah, that was a very, very good conversation. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective so openly. We'll wrap it up there, but conversations like this exist to normalize experiences that many people go through quietly as life and responsibility grow. If anything we've spoken about feels familiar, that doesn't mean that something is wrong. It just means that you're paying attention. You can find more conversations like this through Breathe. And if you want to understand how you're currently operating, you can take the Breathe scorecard at www.breatheblueprint.com. And Neil, if anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they contact you?
Okay, so I'm active on social media. So look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn. Always happy to help. So by all means, reach out to me, stick a note, and then I'll respond to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Katie. Thanks for having me.